Now we'll focus on mainly on practical things that we actually do basically. Many things are said that ideally this has to be done. Dr. Anand told you in details regarding what do we actually do and what has to be done and what on day-to-day basis and problems that you face. Okay, so you can put you can just recollect your all the questions that you have that you daily face basically. After this session is over, we'll have a question answer session in which you can ask freely any doubts regarding any patient management, regarding the preparation of the feeds, whatever we have done in this, so that we'll try to answer that. Okay, so to recollect, like what are the recommendations, that the basic recommendations that everybody says is that now we know that enteral nutrition for all critical care patients is better than parenteral nutrition as the starting once we start. And any patient getting admitted in ICU, all critically ill patients, 24 to 48 hours, within that we have to initiate enteral feed and set our goals. Okay, what goals you want to achieve, the nutrition goals that you want to achieve in a patient. Okay, so recommendations, these are the major recommendations that we start with enteral feed. Now the goals that we want to achieve is the nutritional goals that we have, and definitely all these things that we want to do is for better outcome of the patients. Okay, so but there are many studies and everything that has shown that you start good enteral feeds, you reach your calorie targets that you set goals and you try to reach that goal as fast as possible. Recovery of the patients after you shift the patient from ICU also, it's good and the outcome of the patients are good. So that is the importance. So how do we do that basically? How do we proceed? So generally step 1, step 2, step 3. It's just a rough thing basically. So what do we do now basically? Can anybody? Sunanda, what do you usually do now when the patient comes regarding nutrition? So there is something, a form is there, a nutritional assessment form is there. Does anybody know about that form that you attach, that we sign? Okay, dietitian. So madam take care of that basically. So that form, everybody should know what is the nutritional assessment form, and that step 1 will be whenever the patient comes, we screen the patient basically. We see what all problems the patient is already having. So for that we have a nutritional assessment form. So on that there are some practical points to how to go about that nutritional assessment. That is entirely a separate thing. So we'll try to cover it in a separate seminar after this. So step 1 is screening the patient, seeing what all problems my patient is having and taking some measurements, basic height weight calculation, and fixing a calorie goal for this patient. This is the calorie need of my patient and I want to give this much amount of calories in this form, whatever it may be, what all preparations that Dr. Anand told, whatever you want, whatever we start basically, and then we fix a goal that this is the amount of say 100 calories, how much amount of time I need to spend on this so that I want to achieve say 80% or more than 80% of my goal at what time. So this, whenever the patient comes, like you give medications to the patient, all the medications, this is nutrition is a type of medication to your patient that you give. Nutrition is the most basic medicine that you start with to the patient. So it has to be prescribed, and the prescription, I think if you don't have, if we are not writing of anything deficit in that part, you should always ask the doctor that how should I start and what is the nutritional requirement according to you for this patient, and we have to fill up that thing and we'll try to follow. It's a constant reassessment. You write one thing, 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, 96 hours, we reassess. It's a continuous reassess, and according to the patient condition, we readjust the calories, readjust the proteins, or any special needs, we try to add it up. So step 1 is nutritional assessment. Any patient comes, you nutritionally screen the patient. So what is the importance of nutritional? Why do you need this nutritional assessment? So what do you generally try to assess is, like all your patients will be having some sort of, you try to screen from any sort of acute starvation and chronic starvation. What do you mean by acute starvation? Any patient coming with say fever history of 7 days, not feeding well for 7 days, that is acute starvation. Any patient like a cancer patient or a patient with a post GI surgery, okay, maybe malnourished for 6 months, who has lost more than 10 to 20% of weight in last 6 months, they come in this chronic starvation category. Then you see for acute and chronic inflammation. What sort of acute inflammation? Sepsis, UTI, LRTI. landing up in the hospital with a sepsis, acute inflammation. What is chronic inflammation? Any patient with COPD, bronchial asthma, intermittent LRTIs due to that, coronary artery disease, it's also kind of chronic inflammation in the patient. So these patients are chronically inflamed. So you see all these categories and try to assess the nutritional status of the patient. So what do you get? So we know what is the micronutrient deficiency of the patient. We know how much amount of weight the patient has lost and what is the erosion of the lean body mass, how much the patient has lost, how much of protein deficit the patient has because he has lost muscle mass because of all these things, and there is a negative calorie and negative protein balance in the patient. And we should know that all these things will lead to dysfunctional immune system. Any patient with calorie debt and protein lysis, what happens? He presents to you with a depressed immune system. So depressed immune system means these patients will have bad outcomes. Okay, these patients will have bad outcomes. So where can you intervene? We can intervene after assessment. According to the patient need, we can intervene, we can start our feeding accordingly so that our outcomes are good. Okay, so we try to meet our calorie and protein, lipid, whatever we try to give to the patient, we try to meet that goal. So what is the end result? What do we want actually? So that outcomes of the patient in and outside the ICU should be good. So what is the outcome? We say 28-day mortality or ventilator-free days in ICUs. So as quickly as you can wean the patient from ventilator, this is also one of the good markers basically. So this is the way. So this is the importance of nutritional assessment. Why do we do it? Okay. So now how do we do it? Now there are many methods that we do. There is something known as anthropometric methods in which we measure patient body fat, then we take some measurements, and second is clinical method. In the clinical method, there are many clinical methods described. One of the most popular methods that we use is subjective global assessment. Now this is a sheet that we give basically whenever the patient gets admitted. Generally dietitian are doing this for here. We can also take part in that basically. So what we do is that this has various components. Now subjective global assessment basically sees the medical history of the patient and some physical examination, and based on that we classify the patient as A, B and C. Okay, mild, moderate and severely malnourished. These are the three classifications. So what do we do is that we try to classify in these three categories, and we know now the special needs of these patients. Now a patient who is severely malnourished, we know that the patient is severely calorie deficit. So we have to be extra precautious on the nutrient part. And we also know that this patient might have a poor outcome. So we need to have more careful regarding those patients. So what do we see in medical history? Generally the weight of the patient, dietary intake, then gastrointestinal symptoms, now functional capacity of the patient. In physical examination, generally the subcutaneous fat you will see under the eyes, triceps, in the biceps, then muscle wasting. This is all subjective assessment. You don't need any sort of measurements in this. And you classify the patient, and edema and ascites, and you score the patient and you classify them overall SGA rating as A, B and C. Okay. So at the end of this assessment, you know whether your patient is mildly malnourished, moderate or severely malnourished, so that you classify your patient accordingly. Accordingly, your prescription for the diet and future management of the patient will also change. Okay. Now the next step comes, you see weight and height are here. So how to see practical points, how to see the weight and height of the patient. Now height in ICUs, generally what we do right now is just ask the attenders, like, or we just say roughly maybe 5 foot 6 inches or something like that, and convert it into centimeters if we want. So that is a rough estimation, and many studies have shown that this rough estimation doesn't always correlate, and calorie deficit and calculation varies a lot, because we just take 2 or 3 inches here and there makes a lot of difference for the patient. So there are rough estimations. Easiest way we can do is simple foot to head measurement. When the patient is lying down, from foot to head, just we can take a scale, we can take a tape and measure the height of the patient. That's the most simplest thing. Second, you have certain formulas like this is known as a demi-span. I thought this is a very simple thing to do in ICU if we can adopt actually. What we do is from sternal notch to the middle finger, we calculate the distance and put it into this formulas. In females, roughly the height will coincide as 1.35 into demispan, this length that you have calculated, plus 60 centimeters. And in males, the height will coincide into 1.4 into this length plus 57.8. So this is a rough estimate. This is a bit more accurate, and this is the thing that practically, if you want, we can do that at the bedside whenever we receive the patient. So what do we do with the weight of the patient? Now weight, all the nutritional protocols that we do, all the calculations per kg body weight calculations that we do are basically based on ideal body weight of the patient. So what is ideal body weight? The ideal body weight of the adults calculates is a useful tool to check the appropriate weight for a given height of an individual. So if a patient comes to you, a male patient, what will be the ideal body weight of the patient? 50 kgs you plus 2.3 kgs into the height of the patient in inches. Height you have already measured previously. Okay, so you convert it into inches minus 60. So 50 kgs, say height of the patient is say 62 inches, say. So 62 minus 60 is 2 here. 2 into 2 roughly 4, 50 plus 4 becomes the ideal body weight, 54 kgs. Like this is very simple formula. You can for females it is 45.5 plus 2.3 into height minus 60. So this is ideal body weight for general people who are coming to you, all the common patients that you receive. Now patients who are obese, we can go for adjusted body weight. So this will be ideal body weight that you calculated here plus 0.25% of the actual body weight minus the ideal body weight. Okay. So you calculate the ideal body weight, you minus this, and you multiply it by a factor of 0.25. Nowadays they say you can multiply it by 0.5 also according to the so obese patients, you see the adjusted body weight, and all your calculations will be calorie calculation and everything will be based on adjusted body weight, or unless you calculate ideal body weight.